What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is October 28th of 2017. Well, folks, as you all keep up with the channel, you know that once a week I recap on everything related to price action and news in cryptocurrencies, and this week has been a pretty exciting week that we've got a lot to talk about. We've got to talk about the aftermath of the Bitcoin Gold hard fork. As you all know, I had quite an opinion on that just a few days ago, and it still stands. Along with that, we've got to talk about the overall market cap of cryptocurrencies, what the big players are doing, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some other altcoins that we've been watching on the channel. And along with that, we've got a few headlines to cover. We've got to talk about the anticipation coming into the fork in November for Segwit2x, otherwise known as B2X, the next fork in Bitcoin. And along with that, we've got to talk about Warren Buffett, the infamous investor who's now coming out again and calling cryptocurrencies yet again a bubble. We will be rebuttaling that. And then also, I've got to tell you all personally about an exchange change that I'm making. As you all know, I've been using Bittrex for a long time, but I've decided recently to make a switch over to another platform, and I'll be talking about that as we go throughout the video. All right, so we've got a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, as you all know, usually I start off talking about the overall market cap of cryptocurrencies, but today we have a special treat. As you all know, a few days ago I covered the Bitcoin Gold hard fork, and I had quite an opinionated mindset on the fork and as a whole, and talking about where it stands in the long term of things. So today I thought we would have a little bit of fun and start off by looking at the aftermath of the fork. I mean, oh, this is just like miserable looking. Again, I'm not saying we're any genius by any means as a community. I mean, I think anyone generally knew the Bitcoin Gold hard fork is not going to be valued at what it was when it was being traded as a future. However, it is just beautiful to see that when it hit exchanges, the absolute dumping in the sense of price action for Bitcoin Gold. I mean, it's pretty much just flatline. There's been no optimism in this. Now, do I think it's at a fair valuation? Absolutely not. I think it should be lower than this, because I think it's really eventually going to go relatively close to double-digit levels, and it's just going to hang there forever. Then again, we'll have to see with Bitcoin Gold, but it was just an absolutely failed launch. They pushed it out way too quick. It was programmed by one individual. They released the source code, I think, a day before it was released on exchanges and actually distributed. So again, just an absolutely failed launch. It was terrible. And this is yet again a reminder that we need to be careful before we easily just fork the largest cryptocurrency in history, Bitcoin. And just, damaging that reputation of Bitcoin and pretty much giving free cash out to everyone. So again, this was even worse than Bitcoin Cash, in my opinion. An absolutely failed fork. And it's an example and a reminder, almost a scar on the name of Bitcoin that we'll always remember. We'll always have to look back to. And it's something we should think about going into Segwit2x, the next fork in November. So we'll talk a little bit about that more later and later on the channel in general. But I thought we'd do something a little fun, seeing as, ironically, CoinMarketCap does not have the market cap of Bitcoin Gold, but you can't blame them because again, there's not much information on this, and we don't know the exact specific number because it isn't Bitcoin's legitimate supply. It changes at a different rate depending on how people mine Bitcoin Gold. So again, we're going to do a rough estimate here. I'm going to take the most recent number of Bitcoin in circulation and cross that over by multiplying that by the current market price of Bitcoin Gold. Keep in mind, I have not done this number yet, so this is going to be quite fun to do and actually see the valuation. Now, if you've seen my Bitcoin Gold video that I did previously, this was sitting around $7 billion in valuation. As you can see, this has changed. So let's go ahead, let's calculate the number, and it's under $2 billion. This is a little more justifiable, but still, again, we really have to think about this, folks. Someone created $2 billion out of thin air. Again, I mean, this just seems a little hypocritical unless this really gets adopted long term, which I don't think it will. $2 billion out of thin air. Way to go. It's just crazy. Again, we really have to consider the legitimacy of this. I hope that's a real word, legitimacy. But the legitimate nature of whether or not we can just keep forking Bitcoin and giving out free cash to everybody. Because, I mean, that's exactly how the market treated it. And again, just trying to keep it real here. I love cryptocurrency, but this is, in the sense of loving it, we've got to be sure that we're thinking in the long term of things and really seeing if we're actually doing the right approach to scaling Bitcoin and distributing the mining power. All right. So Next up, we've got to talk about the overall market cap of cryptocurrencies. Again, since August, or actually I would say late August, beginning of September, we still have yet to get past the inevitable resistance at $175 billion. I think what's happening right now is you're seeing a stagnation in Bitcoin, as we'll talk about here in a few minutes, as well as Ethereum. And we're waiting to see new altcoins come into the space. Again, Bitcoin, since the altcoin run-up in through the beginning of the year to June and July, has been losing dominance. And we regained a little bit of it during this previous third rally, where altcoins have been relatively stagnant. But as we all know, historically, where Bitcoin rises, altcoins follow. And where Bitcoin descends, altcoins follow as well, usually a little bit faster. But again, in this case, I think what we're waiting to see, the market isn't selling off here. It's not proving to be extreme resistance in any sense. Bitcoin has been killing it. However, we haven't seen altcoins follow yet. And I think you're going to see some optimism pour into other players than Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think you have all these new ICOs in the space, and whereas a ton of them are crap, I mean, you already know I say 90 to 95% of ICOs I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, 5% of those might have the next Ethereum. They might have the next big player, and we need to keep our eyes on that, because that 5%, if it has that next big player, it can happen overnight. It can be the next big thing in the cryptocurrency space. It can be the next application of blockchain. And we always try to stay ahead of the game here on the Data Dash channel. That's what makes us great. We have a huge community of resources and people networking with one another, talking about what could be that next cryptocurrency. So, we've been making a lot of decent calls here in the small cap space, as we'll talk about later, that might be some of those players. But again, we got to talk about Bitcoin first and foremost. So Bitcoin itself, I want to actually take away the USD valuation, look at market cap. Bitcoin is seeing resistance at a very fair level, pretty predictable as well, $100 billion. It's a massive even number for Bitcoin. And again, this could be a time where Bitcoin pulls back and leaves room for altcoins to rise. I don't think you're going to see an absolute sell-off in Bitcoin. I don't believe that in any regard. But again, I'm not boosting my Bitcoin position right now. Again, for the Bitcoin that I have held, I've made a great profit off of it riding up recently going into the fork. Don't really care too much about it right now. It's already at very extensive levels. It breached 6,000 just a few days ago. What I care about is looking for the next run-up opportunity, which is altcoins. So, at least in my opinion. Again, this technical pattern here where we're seeing some kind of, whereas we were going straight up originally with Bitcoin, where we had yet again another uptrend, just like we had with the first, the second, and the third of 2017, we're now getting a little bit of shaky price action, much like we saw over here. I don't think we have any flooding case scenario to really make this sell off just yet. Now, if this gets below like $5,400, which has been obviously a level of support here, again, that would be a little bit worrying. But if we see it break through the 50-day, that's the real concerning factor. I think what you could see is a mix of these two things. You're going to see the 50-day continue to rise up, and you're going to see Bitcoin descend a little bit. This is going to give altcoins their first chance to really run up. And what you'll see is Bitcoin capture support on the 50-day. That's at least my prediction on a technical sense. And ironically, look what level is kind of coming in between those two things. The big even at 5,000, which was previous resistance. As you all know, previous resistance tends to become new support. I'm going to keep on saying that. I know you all are like, Nick, the sayings you've like come up with on this channel, have literally been ingrained in my head, and I think I'm going mentally insane. Again, though, if you really want to know how markets work, I mean, again, it's happened in the past. What tends to be previous resistance usually becomes support. Learn from these very simple things, and you can be a step ahead of the market, folks. My personal opinion is that with this kind of shakiness and with the Bitcoin gold fork not really producing any real value and being sold off instantly, a lot of this Bitcoin price action is on thin air. Again, optimism for Bitcoin has been growing. I'm not saying it's going to be completely dismantled because of Bitcoin gold, but that was a serious scar on Bitcoin, and it really is going to make the miners think twice about all of this forking action. So, again, we'll have to see. But I think that this personally is going to come down to around 5,000, and I think it'd be great if the 50-day could come up, lock in support there, and we could continue to see Bitcoin ride up with altcoins and have kind of what we saw back in originally at the beginning of 2017, and really finish out strong the third bull run, because this isn't going to be a cancellation of the bull run. This is just simply a little bit of a correction after the Bitcoin gold fork, and it's going to give altcoins and people who are long-term on altcoins a chance to really see some benefit comparative to Bitcoin. So enough on Bitcoin. We'll have to see what happens. Again, I think it's going to pull back to around this level. But on to altcoins now. Vertcoin. Wow. This has just been blowing out every expectation I could have seen for Vertcoin. It has been a monstrous move up. I mean, just look at this, folks. This is a massive run up. So, I mean, proud. I gotta say, I'm really proud of those out there who are long term on Vertcoin. This has really been taking over the space in the altcoins. The price action has been phenomenal. The volume is pouring in. If we go here to the weekly, we can obviously start to see this is getting more volume, and not to mention the higher price. If you have higher price and you have more volume of the given cryptocurrency, that's huge. Remember, on when we're looking at this on TradingView, it's not looking at it at comparative to Bitcoin volume. If you go on Bittrex and look at it in Bitcoin volume, it's massive, it's huge. So that's a phenomenal thing to see in the sense that we're seeing higher levels of volume with a higher price. So that means more Bitcoin compared to volume is trading, and that's definitely something to keep an eye on. So again, Vertcoin's been doing great. You want to know my opinion on it? To be fair, I'm reasonable. As much as I think that Vertcoin is going to, into 2018, it's going to continue to climb, I personally believe that it needs to correct. It needs to have a little bit of correction. This is very volatile price action, and it's getting very exponential, to be honest. And we've seen in the past that it has cooldown periods. It does. Now, where is that cooldown going to be? I don't know. I can't really gain too much technical price analysis from this. However, I don't think you're going to be going down here to 38,000 Satoshis or anything like that, but we do need to see a decent price correction. These very long extended topping wicks are showing us that, where the candles are not being able to sustain the majority of the price action. So again, might be a little bit too fast, too quick, and we'll have to give it some time to cool down before we start adding back to making larger positions in Vertcoin. Next, though, I want to talk about, and is really the candidate. I know I've been drilling it. It's one of my top 5 coins for November. Of course, I mean, again, I'm optimistic on the players that I'm holding currently. Substratum is a player that I continue to see relative optimism in. Now, we haven't had the supposed reversal that I was looking for. We had a chance at that a few weeks ago, but really we haven't gotten it, to be fair with you all. I'm a little upset that we haven't, but to be fair, I'm looking at this in the long term of things. I haven't touched my Substratum position yet. What I do see, though, is a lot of optimism coming into it, and there's a lot of good things that are coming for Substratum. It's a reason why it's one of my top 5 coins. You have 2 major things happening. Actually, I would say 3. One of them is kind of a change in the sense of geopolitics, and then you've also got the upgrades to Substratum. You've got the fact that they're actually going through and doing beta testing. This is huge. They're actually going out of their way to finally start taking people on, and they're going to be launching beta testing relatively soon. And the other thing that I really like as well, as we go through Substratum, is the fact that they're continuing, actually, sorry, I scrolled the wrong way. They're actually going to be, I think they've got fully acclimated into their office now in Ohio. So I think that's awesome. They've actually built the facility. They're getting people out there, and they're actually going to get starting to work on the project. You know, again, a lot of people ask me, why is this, these kind of small things, why do these small things seem like big things in the crypto space? Because there's 10 ICOs launching every day, and 9 of them have either no proof of concept or they're not even working towards it. I mean, this is really good, guys. This is just, it's good to see that the money that they were able to raise from the ICO is actually going into actually delivering and testing out and taking people in the community who are passionate about Substratum, coming in and doing beta testing and actually trying to deliver on a project on time. And with the timeline that they have set, if they can deliver at least an alpha or a beta of the actual Substratum network, I mean, that's going to be huge. That's really going to be awesome to see that they're at least doing demos and actually trying to test it and see if they can deliver on their promises. And again, this is coming at a very important time. China just launched another crackdown on the internet, and it's getting quite serious. It's a little bit different than the past. They're doubling down on their efforts to crack down on VPNs. And as you all know, if you know what a VPN is, it's a virtual private network. It's how people generally in China access parts of the web that they cannot access through normal internet providers. I mean, this is serious stuff. And again, whereas China is, it's ironic, they're coming a little more, in the article, you can even read it, I think they talked about how China is becoming a little more liberal with their policies in the sense of more freedoms and, again, more freedoms in the sense of markets. In China, in Beijing, you can't even access Google and Facebook. What would it feel like to you if you couldn't access Google or Facebook? I mean, those are the basics of the internet. And now people in China and Beijing cannot access that. I mean, it's been like that for a while, but they're doubling down on their crackdown on virtual private networks. This is giving Substratum a huge opportunity. And whereas regulation comes in, innovation spurs. I mean, it comes into fruition when you have governments come in to regulate things. So keep it on your radar that Substratum might be a good candidate. In my personal opinion, it's a reason why I'm a long-term investor in them. I believe in the project. I hope we can get Justin on sometime. I know they've been, extremely busy. We had a plan originally to get him on the actual Data Dash channel, but again, this is serious stuff, folks. One of the largest country in the sense of population is now keeping people from accessing basic sites. And for the people who know how to use the VPN route, they will not be able to access those sites as much longer as they used to, or at least they were predicting to be able to, because China is doubling down on cracking down on VPNs. That's huge. And whereas Substratum could serve as that solution, decentralizing web hosting. If you do that, you don't even need something like Mysterium, which is decentralized VPNs. You just need Substratum. You just need to be able to access it and have people using the Substratum node and earning Substrate. So again, very, very optimistic about what the Substratum project's doing, and we'll have to see if they can deliver on it. It's needed more now than ever, and on a moral sense, I really do believe in this. So again, two of these players, Vertcoin, Substratum, are two of my long-term, they are long-term picks going into 2018, but they're two of my favorites on my top 5 coins for November. If you haven't seen that, I recommend you go watch it. And we'll also be talking about Binance as well as we go through the video. But again, I mean, altcoins are starting to get a little bit more optimism, I think. You're seeing a mix of traditional coins that have been kind of forgotten in the kind of June, July period of crypto, where we had the serious run-up in cryptocurrencies. And then you've also got a mix of ICOs, which we're going to be trying to catch up and cover with on the channel. I know I haven't been able to cover a lot of projects. So on to the headlines. Full steam ahead for Segwit2x, developer Jeff Garzik says. So Segwit2x is going to be the upcoming fork, and we're going to be talking a lot about this on the channel. I know we haven't gone too in-depth. We've got some time, luckily, to talk about it because it's in November. But we're going to be diving deep into Segwit2x. There's a lot of controversy with this, as there is with every single fork in the crypto space. No, I'm not going to be providing too much substance on the topic because the video is already long enough as is. I do want to start talking about this on the channel. Segwit2x. Should we be optimistic on this? Should we see negative, after all the aftermath of Bitcoin Gold, should we be a little bit worrisome about Segwit2x? And what are the differences between Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and Segwit2x? So we're going to be recapping on all of that in the next few days. There is a great article here that I'm going to link to the Segwit2x hard fork that was posted on the Cointelegraph. Again, read up on it, learn a little bit about it, and prepare yourselves if you want to really get involved in this. And then we're going to be doing a whole breakdown on this whole topic in the next few days. Again, I'm just trying to catch up a little bit. I've been really busy at work recently, guys, and again, we'll be talking about it soon enough. So don't worry, we're not going to push it last minute right before the fork where you're tossing around and stuff saying, oh my God, do I need to buy Bitcoin or sell it? We've got a few days to talk about it. Next up, we've got to talk about the headline that is most recent. Just 2 days ago, billionaire Warren Buffett doubled down on his statements and said that Bitcoin is a real bubble. And he said, people get excited for big price movements and Wall Street accommodates, he was quoted by saying, describing Bitcoin as a real bubble, according to the publication. He told attendees, you can't value Bitcoin because it is not a value-producing asset. So I guess Forex markets don't even matter. Currency valuations compared to one another don't matter. Again, you have to understand, to be fair, I love Warren Buffett. I mean, he is one of the few investors that, even in the space that is very lucrative, that is very, kind of, I wouldn't know how to describe, equities markets. I've traded in equities markets for years, but it just seems like there's a lot of people in that space and generally who invest in stocks and have large portions in overall equities markets in the US that are generally just not kind-hearted. Warren's done it the real way. He's used compound interest to his advantage, and he's an absolute stellar investor. No matter how you want to put your opinion on him, have an opinion on him, he is an absolute investor to watch in the sense of thinking long term. Again, though, he comes from the world of assets, from stocks, from actual tangible assets. And this is yet again a problem that I continue to see from traditional investors. They say, oh, Bitcoin, it's this thing I can't see, I can't touch. Doesn't matter. what the issue that he's missing here, and this quote right here, you can't value Bitcoin because it's not a value producing asset. The US dollar is not a value producing asset, but we can comparatively build value in that currency through transaction, through adoption. For example, the US dollar compared to the Japanese yen, when you have those two currencies together, you have a comparative rate, just like you do with the US dollar and Bitcoin. However, those two currencies, at the end of the day, they're digital numbers on some computer. 97 to 99% of your currency, depending on what country you live in, is digital. Just like Jamie Dimon said it himself. Again, your paper money that you're holding is a fraction of your overall currency. Most of it's digitalized. There's no actual value. You can't build a home with dollars, same as you can with Bitcoin. So again, this whole argument is just it's like a caveman styled argument against Bitcoin. It's the outdated things that we've heard 1,000 different times and 1,000 different ways. So no hard feelings against Warren Buffett, but again, I think he's just he's a part of the financial era that's just aged and doesn't understand the need for Bitcoin. And maybe he does understand it. Maybe he does know about the banking system and everything, but he's scared about it. If Bitcoin really does come into fruition, that's worrisome for someone like Warren Buffett, who, his net worth is based off of US dollars through the assets that he owns. So again, I think there's a little personal bias in the sense of people in the traditional finance sector. And to be fair, maybe a little bit of bias on our side as well in the crypto community. But the revolution's coming. Cryptocurrencies are here to stay. And I think, though there's a lot of poor attempts in finance to try to replace Bitcoin with creating their own currencies on blockchain, it's not going to happen. So we'll have to see. And last up, we have to talk about my altcoin trading platform. Now, as you all know, I've been using Bittrex for quite some time. I've loved Bittrex ever since I started trading altcoins outside of just holding Bitcoin, and it's been a great platform for quite some time. It had a great variety of cryptocurrencies to trade from, whether it be coins, ERC20 tokens. Some of the new hot cryptos that came into the space came onto Bittrex. It was a very nice platform for that. And I never really had any security issues or deposit or withdrawal issues. Things happen relatively quick, especially for the crypto space. However, Bittrex has been lagging recently. I am one of many people in the space who is having issues with withdrawing from Bittrex, and because of that, it got me very wary of the platform. Again, it was about 2 weeks before I could withdraw anything, and I finally was able to just the other day, and I withdrawed it and put it onto a new exchange that I'm going to be using. Along with that, Bittrex has not been delivering on all the new hot cryptocurrencies. It's been lagging in that regard. So, again, I'm staying wary of Bittrex, and I'm going to not be using it for quite some time. It hasn't been keeping up with its user base. It wasn't very transparent when there was errors with people withdrawing. So, the new platform, as you probably can guess, is something that I've been talking about on my channel, which is Binance. And they have been doing the complete opposite of Bittrex. They have been killing it. And their volume, if I last checked, was actually close to or on par with Bittrex. The reason this is happening is because Bittrex, whereas it's lagging, Binance is continuing to grow. They've been marketing their platform very well. They've been continuing to bring on new types of cryptocurrencies. A lot of those ICOs we talked about that Bittrex has not been listing on their exchange. And they've also been getting more volume, which means more liquidity for more sound trades to the buying and selling side. And then also, I haven't had any problems with deposits or withdrawals on the platform right now. It's been relatively consistent and transparent. So even though it's a Chinese exchange and stuff, I've been liking my experience with it so far. It reminds me of the days that I used to have with Bittrex. So again, they've got tons of coins that I wouldn't be able to trade on Bittrex. They've got Everx, they've got Monetha, they've got Substratum, they've got huge ICO projects, Salt. I know they have Gas as well for those of you out there in the space who love Neo. Again, Walton Chain, Chainlink, a lot of these ICOs that are great projects going on right now that have legitimate adoption, but Bittrex has been lagging to adopt. So, again, we'll have to see if Bittrex can catch up the slack, but for now, I'm going over to the Binance platform. And just to share, it's something that launched the other day, and to be true with you all, I know I usually don't like to use referral links, but if it's for something that I agree in and something that I use as a platform to trade, I don't mind sharing it. It's a great way you can support the channel outside of just donating to me. If you can't donate, I recommend, if you're going to sign up for an account on Binance, if you could use the referral link that I'll have down under my Coinbase one. These are the only two referral links that I use. It's a great way that if you're going to use the platform, it's no obligation to you. It just helps support the channel if you use the referral link. But again, I think it's a great way to get people on the platform. They've continued to market Binance very well. And it's a good platform. They have advanced charting applications compared to Bittrex. They've continued to get more liquidity, and I think as it continues to grow and they get more ICOs in the space, they're going to outpace Bittrex, dude. They've been literally going way too slow as an exchange. So we'll have to see though, but they've got a wide variety of cryptocurrencies that I've really taken liking to, and a lot of ones that we couldn't originally trade because they were either on Poloniex or other exchanges outside of Bittrex. So whether you're looking for the new hot ICOs or traditional cryptocurrencies in the space, I definitely recommend looking at Binance and see if it has some cryptocurrencies that you want to invest in that aren't on Bittrex or other platforms out there. And don't be wary, I know it's a Chinese exchange. But anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching the video today for the market recap. Again, I think there's a lot going on in the cryptocurrency space right now. We've got a lot to look forward to going into November. The week has been relatively quiet in the sense of price action, but I think we're going to continue to see an altcoin run up. I think we're going to see a lot of the hot ICOs launched recently get some traction. And again, you all know that I'm optimistic. What I'm optimistic on for my November video, I'm staying consistent. I've got a lot of those positions in hand, and I'm ready to see the month of November take on. All right. Well, anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.